Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. If you were just kind of brushing along this video and have no idea who I am or what I do, my name is Taylor and I am a small business owner here in a small town in Ontario, Canada, and I resell items online for a profit. And today I kind of want to recap my story of what got me into reselling, how this came about, and how I took something that was a hobby and turned it into a job. Now, if you are listening and you have been following me over the last few years, you follow me on Instagram, maybe you are a part of our private Facebook group where we do a lot of our selling, you know my story over the last couple of years and how I had no choice but to make this hobby turn into a full-time job when Dave got laid off due to COVID multiple times. So you guys are familiar with that part of my story. And over the last couple of months, my daughter has started school full-time and I have been trying to figure out where exactly I wanted this reselling job that's kind of fallen in my lap to go. And so we're still kind of working out the kinks on that, but I know the one thing that I wanted for sure was to be able to share more education and systems behind what I do to help educate other people to be able to do this on their own terms. And whether that is so that you can stay home with your kids or bring in a little bit of extra income to cover the grocery bill or the gas bill this month, I have become really passionate about showing people that this is a pretty simple concept that almost anyone can do with very minimal money to start up that can provide for your family in a really cool way. And so that's why I am here to kind of tell you a little bit about my story. I'm hoping to get more frequent here on YouTube, bring you guys along with me as I pick items from places like thrift stores, garage sales, liquidation pallets, anything like that, and sell them online for a profit, and how I'm able to do that from home while being, for the longest time, home with my daughter. And now that she's in school, I'm able to work from home so that I have the flexibility to be home with her when she's sick, because we all know those 6 days just like pack up on top of each other. Be able to get her on and off the bus and be present at the end of the day, not have to work so hard into the evenings. And so this concept has blessed our family over the last few years and will continue to do that, just in a much different way now. So I'm still trying to figure that out and exactly what that looks like, while balancing my other business, which I am a birth doula here in Durham region as well. And so because that is kind of my career and my lifelong goal, I really do have to nurture that in this season of life right now too. And so we're trying to find the balance between both, but I cannot give up liquidation and reselling. And I think where my passion lies right now is to share that with you guys, so that if this could help your family in any way, I would be more than happy to share my knowledge and my education on this weird thing that fell into my lap with you. So let's backtrack quite a few years. I can't really pinpoint the time that I started shopping secondhand. I think generally speaking, I've always been someone who I love a good deal. I very much hesitate in making any type of investment financially. I've always just been someone who is conscious of the ways that they're spending their money and shopping for things on sale and like that. So I feel like that's pretty much where the basis of this concept started for me. When I started thrifting, I can't really put that into place, but what I do know is that once I started thrift shopping for myself, because at the time I did not have kids, I realized that I could go to a thrift store and buy something for $5 that I wanted for myself. And I knew that I could also buy something that I could sell on Facebook Marketplace or Garage Sale for $10 and make back the money that I spent on myself. Does that make sense? I really quickly came into this concept, and I wasn't doing it to earn money on the side. It was kind of always like a little challenge, a little hobby. I would go to the thrift store, find something I like, then I would find something that I could flip to pay for the item that I bought for myself. So technically, I was like buying new things for myself, or new to me things for myself, without having to spend any money. Now, I want to say about like 6 years ago, I got introduced to Bidding Wars, which was a Facebook group that was local in my community, and it was all based around bidding. So it was a buy and sell group, but instead of setting the price, it set in bids. And so I got introduced to Bidding Wars, and at the time it was super, super new and kind of hot in our area. Like everyone was on it. Items were being bid for like way more than what they were even like retailed for. It was kind of crazy. But people really liked this idea of buying secondhand but bidding on the items. So this was around the time that I got pregnant with my daughter and went on early mat leave due to some complications in my pregnancy. And then I was on mat leave and staying home with her. And so I started just purging and cleaning around the house, and I would just list these things around my house on Bidding Wars, start at the bid at like $2, and they would end at like $20, $25, $30, $40. And I remember one week getting through the week, and I had just done porch pickups, taken the cash, put it in like a jar near our front door. At the end of the week, I counted it, and I think I had like $117. And I was like, what? Like that added up fast. Like throughout the week, I wasn't really thinking, how much money am I going to make? I just was getting rid of stuff in my house, purging, throwing it on Bidding Wars, which was just so easy because I would start it at a low price. People would bid on it, and then they had to pick up within 24 hours, which was what I liked about the Bidding Wars, is that I wasn't getting the people be like, oh, I'll come in a week. Oh, I'll come in 2 weeks. Oh, I forgot. It was a rule on Bidding Wars. I think you had 24 to 48 hours to pick up. So I knew if I sold this item, I was getting it out of my house. And so at the end of the week, I think I had $117, and I was like, I turned to Dave and I was like, babe, like I'm going to go grocery shopping, and we don't even need to touch our checking account. Like I can just take my cash, because back then you could get groceries for under $100, or at least for us, like our grocery bill was always around $100. So sure enough, I went grocery shopping, didn't even have to take it out of our budget, whatever. That's when the wheels started turning. That's when I was like, wait a minute, like these items fly on Bidding Wars. So then I started going to a thrift store, and I would buy like 1 or 2 items that I knew would sell well in Bidding Wars, and I would come home and I would post them same day, and they would sell same day. And the next day, like I was making small profits. Like I was only making $10, $15 profits off of these items, maybe even only a $5 profit off of these items, but they were selling and people were picking them up, and I was making money. And so then this just kind of continued, and I never really did it to the point where I was investing hundreds of dollars at a thrift store. I didn't have the money back then, especially on maternity leave, to go and spend $500 to find items to sell. It was always in like $20, $30 increments. Like I would take, if I made $60 that week, I'd keep 30 of it, and then I'd take the other 30 and I'd go to the thrift store and I'd buy a few more items, and then I would flip that, and then I would have 80, and I'd keep 50 and take the other and go to the thrift store. And so I just started doing this, and it was like a hobby, and it got me out of the house because I was on mat leave and I had a newborn. And so I'd get up in the morning and I'd get my tea from Tim's, and we'd go to the thrift stores and I'd poke around, and I'd come home and I list it, and it gave me something to do every day. It was creating income for my family while I was on mat leave, and I was paying our grocery bill every single week by just doing something that I found fun. I found it a challenge. So then I sort of submersed myself into the reselling community here on YouTube, and I started watching reselling content. I started watching what sold videos, thrift with me videos, selling on Poshmark videos, and this way I knew what brands were selling well, what were popular brands, just kind of branching out of my normal things that I was picking up. Because I didn't have much knowledge when I was doing that. I was just going to do things that I knew people my age or whatever would buy for a minimal price. And so once I started watching reseller content, then I got in my head and I could see that these people were making full-time incomes or part-time incomes doing this online. They kind of took it more seriously. So once my mat leave was up, I went back and I worked before and after school care for the family that I nannied for before I was on mat leave. And that was perfect because I only worked before and after school. I brought my daughter with me. During the day, I'd also started my doula business, so I was working on that, but I never stopped reselling. I continued to do this cycle of buying a few things, flipping a few things, cover our gas bill, cover whatever we needed to cover, go out on date night. That was something that we always like put in our budget, and all of a sudden we weren't really needing to like put it in our budget because at the end of the week I'd have $40 cash from Facebook Marketplace sales, and so we'd take that and go to the pub and have a drink and have some nachos, and it was just amazing. It was sweet. I'd found this thing that I'd enjoyed. I didn't have to spend a lot of money. I knew that I was never investing money that was going to be gone for a long period of time. So if I spent 30 bucks at the thrift store that day, I knew by Friday I would have that $30 back. And if I didn't, I wasn't hurting myself by spending that $30. So I've done this for many years, and that's kind of when it started. Probably about 6 years ago is when I was doing this more frequently, to the point where it was like kind of like a side gig. Fast forward to COVID, and this is where a lot of you already know this story, so I'll kind of skim over it, but Dave was laid off and laid off and laid off. And for the longest time, as I started to get into reselling content, I realized that people resell liquidation, and they would buy these pallets from Amazon Returns or Costco or whatever, and they would resell. And I always wanted to do it. I always had this itch. I'm like, I know I could make money because I do this on such a small scale. But the investment was much larger, either hundreds or thousands of dollars. And I could never take that jump because myself, I get sketchy when it comes to investing money with things, right? So Dave was always on board. He's like, we should do it. Like, we had a garage back then. Like, and I was like, no, this is fine. Like, that's scary. What if it's like we waste all that money and blah, blah, blah. Well, when Dave got laid off from COVID for the third time, I remember probably sitting right in the spot, and he walked around the corner and he looked at me and he said, I don't have a job. And I was like, what do you mean you don't have a job? And at this point, we had basically depleted our savings over the last few months to get us through COVID. And this was hard because this was the first time in Dave and I's relationship and in each other's lives that we had any type of savings, because we had just sold our townhome in Bowmanville to move to this place. And so we took money from that to build a significant savings, and it was dwindling because we were living off of it. And I said, like, we can't do this again. Like, we cannot, for the next 3 months, whatever it's going to be, 6 weeks, whatever they're telling us, we cannot live off our savings anymore. And so he was like, we kind of had a spat. He was like, well, what do you want me to do? And I was like, I don't know. Like, one of those stressful moments. I stormed off into the bedroom and I sat down on the bed and I was like, what if this moment now is what makes me resell full-time? What if I buy an Amazon return pallet and then he's home with me and I can work full-time flipping this pallet? And so I sat down and I calculated exactly what we were receiving from EI and what we needed in a week to equal what his regular paycheck was going to be. And I believe, I'm not certain, but I believe the amount was like $350, maybe $400 we needed to make a week in order to like equal what a low end of Dave's paycheck would have been. And I was like, okay, so it's $400 a week. And I was like, base that down. How much money is that over 7 days would I have to make? I would have to sell so many items at $10 a piece. And I was like, I think I can do this. And so I walked out to Dave and I said, do you want to buy an Amazon return pallet? And he was like, why not? Let's do it. So we used money from our savings. We purchased a pallet. I think at that time, the pallets were costing us $1,700 or $1,600. I think it was $1,600. So pretty big investment, biggest one I'd ever made when it came to this. And we bought our first Amazon return pallet. And this is where I went from hobby to full-time reseller. And this is where I went from doing this as a side gig to, holy shit, I have to provide for my family. Like, this has to work out. I have to sell things today. I created a private Facebook group because our friends and our family were curious on what was in our palette, and they wanted to know what types of things we had and what they could buy. And so I created this Facebook group, and I think we had like 30 friends in it the first week. And then it just grew and it grew and it grew and it grew. And it was incredible, and it blessed us through that season of life. But then Dave got a job locally, and he went back to work full time, which meant I was now full time home with my daughter again. And I crashed and burned real quick. I could not keep up with the what I needed to keep up with and the level at what I was working with her home with me. And so I tried to, and it failed miserably, and I was overwhelmed, and it was terrible. So then Dave and I decided that we were going to take a massive step back until Abby was in school, and then we would reconsider what that looks like. And that brings me to exactly where I am today. Ivy's been in school since beginning of September. It's the middle of October now. We are trying to put some systems into place to make sure that I'm able to work on doing this a decent amount of time, but also pour into my doula business, while just still like being the primary parent that is home for sick children, caring for the house, and all of that. So I hope that kind of gives you maybe some motivation or some encouragement that if you are in a hard place right now, there are options to get out of it. It does require hard work, and it does require a lot of grit. And it does require some knowledge, which is what I'm hoping I can share with you today. I'm not an expert, but I have been doing this for many years. I do immerse myself in a lot of education around it, learning brands, what sells well, different platforms, all of that. So I'm going to end this here today because it's already 16 minutes long, but I hope that I can see you guys back here over the next little bit. And I'm going to be sharing on Instagram very soon that I am switching my one Instagram platform to a brand new one to fully focus on sharing reselling content with you guys. And that way, if you are interested in it, we can link arms over there, and I can get all your questions answered. So thank you so much. And if you are wanting to follow along on my journey on kind of walking back into balancing a full-time reselling gig, I would love if you could hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in my next video.